Hello my friends, and welcome to the first part of our Vue Custom Effects series brought to you by vfxdojo.com. And in this first video I want to show you how you can use alpha masks in order to create custom terrains and also affect the density of an ecosystem population. So let's get started. The aim for today's lesson is to actually create a hedge maze like this one I have here. And the first step you need to take is to actually design it. And you can do it in pretty much 2D application. I chose Photoshop for mine, and this is what I came up with after a couple of minutes. Of course, nothing fancy, and it's pretty simple, but serve the purpose of our tutorial. And important is to actually design it with only black and white values, because as I said earlier, we are going to use this as an alpha mask in Vue. So now take your time, design the maze, simple or complex, whatever suits your needs, then save it, and then we are going to load to Vue. Now here there are two ways of doing this, whether it's a close-up shot or a faraway shot. If it's a faraway shot, then we don't really need many details, so I'm going to show you how you can use alpha masks in order to create custom terrains. So we are going to use a terrain and edit it and go into Altitude Production and right click and choose Edit Function, which will bring us to the function editor window, which is pretty well covered in our introduction series, so if you're not that familiar with it, make sure you watch those two. And now what we want to do is to delete this fractal which currently generates the terrain, because as I said, we want to make a custom one. So we are going to create a texture map node and load the design we did earlier. And now another thing you need to do is to invert it, because white represents the highest altitudes and black represents 0. And last but not least, you are going to connect the altitude to this texture map node as a grayscale output. Now you can click OK, and if you look in the terrain preview, you are going to see that our maze somehow fades towards the edges, and this is because we have 0 edges turned on. So if you turn this off, then you are going to get the design we were aiming for. And one more thing you want to do here is to actually raise the minimum altitude clip, because we don't want any ground with the maze, and that will give us a lot of more flexibility in the future, so we can add the ground through other terrains and affect them individually. So now you can click OK, and let's move the camera up a bit so we can see this better. And let's render this out. Now you can see that even though we use the blur version of our alpha mask, the terrain is still pretty jagged and has a lot of artifacts. So one way to fix this is to right click here and choose Bake to Polygons. And then pick a fairly low amount, you don't need something high, this is good. And let's render again. And you can see that those jaggies are really smaller now, and the artifacts almost disappeared. And what's left on the walls could actually serve as additional texture, you know, simulating that vegetation in there. Okay, so the next step is to actually load the material for this hedge maze, and we are going to use a simple grass material. Okay, so let's render again. And There it is. I say it's a pretty decent maze. If you back the camera even further, I say it can be quite believable. So if you do something like this, take the camera and move it somewhere around here, like this, and let's render again on preview quality so it's faster. Then think of it as an entire scene, and I say it's quite decent. Now there is actually a completed scene in our product section, which has the ground layer and a nice tree here in the middle, and also more detail on the hedge maze, and a nice forest in the background and a castle wall. So you can go and take that scene and break it apart and see how everything was done. So I'm not going to push any more details into this, but there is one more thing I want to show you, and that's how you can do this if there is this is meant for a close-up shot. So I'm going to delete this terrain for now, and we are going to see now the second way you can use an alpha mask, and that is to affect the density of an ecosystem population. So we are going to create a plane and resize it because right now it's obviously too small. This should be good. Move it up a bit. And now we are going to go into its material editor and choose ecosystem. And then load a plant. Now what plant you use will obviously affect the quality of your hedge maze and ultimately its realism. I'm going to choose this one. It's not really a good plant, but I only want to show you how you can affect the density. So we're not really aiming here for a top quality. It's only the principle, and feel free to use another plant, experiment and see which one works best. So what you need to do now is go into the density tab and choose variable density, and then right click here and choose edit function. And now we are going to use the very same alpha mask, but this time we are going to connect it to the density tab. So firstly let's load it and again invert it and connect it to the density as a grayscale output. And now you can click OK. And another important thing to do here is to turn off decay near foreign objects, and then up the density to a really high amount, because you know in a hedge maze the plants are one next to another. Okay, now go back into the general tab and I say lower the scale a bit, let's say 0.5, then hit populate, and let's render out and see the result. Now as you can see, the trees populated only where we had the white values in our alpha mask. And if you really want to see this better, I'm gonna lower even more the scale and adjust the camera so it's turned more towards the ground, and render again, and there it is. You can see clearly how all the trees populated grow only on the white areas of our alpha mask. So this is a very nice way to affect the density of a population, and not only to create a hedge maze, you can do pretty other cool stuff like making trees grow as a text, you know, or as a logo, and achieve some very nice effects. Okay, so I think we're done here. Don't forget that if you found this useful, share it with your friends and let other people know about it. For now, Tiberius Virus here, signing out, and see ya.